Hey, good morning, Maria. Oh no,
Hi.
actually, it's not good morning,
Let's
right?
start again.
Hey, good evening, Maria.
Happy hour. What do you have
Happy,
today?
happy. I'm gonna have English breakfast lemon and lime, mainly because you know what? It matches our book so well. Look at the font.
That
It's
is a
like literally the
lovely.
perfect match. And
I
also
wanted the
when we
water
start,
dogs.
well, we're gonna talk to Mary Bly today, but like I feel like there's like a whole like citrus lemon summer thing. So I'm gonna open mine.
So our book of the month is Lizzie and Dante, as you can see, by Mary Bly. And well, it takes you straight to Italy, basically. If you didn't want to go to Italy before, you have like an
You see
immediate.
like an Italian beach. It's
Yeah,
like a whole vibe.
it's like a whole vibe, and you basically immediately just wanted, or at least I wanted to just like book a flight and go to Italy.
I mean, I loved
Greatest
this story. I mean,
travel
this story, the
vibes.
Italy piece, I mean, Italy is kind of a character. You fall in love with Italy, you fall in love with the characters too. I am very excited. And also excited to hear what Mary has to say when we speak to her, because she's, in addition to being a writer, and she normally writes romance, she's also a
Yeah, and
Shakespeare,
historical fiction, right? Yeah.
historical
Yeah,
romance,
romance. Yeah.
I think. Well, she'll
Yeah.
tell us.
Well, well,
She has
whatever.
she
She'll
has
tell
a
us. But
name.
this is the
She has
first
a
book
pseudonym. This is
she's
her
done
first book.
under Mary, right? Yeah.
Yeah, this is her first book under her name.
Yeah.
But she's also, so this book is about Italy, it's about love, it's about family, and it's also about a little bit about Shakespeare. Mary is a Shakespeare professor. So that's cool.
Yes. And, that was definitely weaved into the story. There's perhaps someone else who's a Shakespeare professor in the story as well.
I love that. So we'll talk to Mary
Yeah.
in a minute, but Italy, have you ever been to Italy? I
Yeah.
think I know that actually,
You
because
know
you and
the
I have
answer to
been
that.
working.
We've never been
We've been
together.
working together for over a decade, so I know you've
Yeah.
been to Italy.
I have indeed been to Italy. My last trip to Italy was canceled though due to our dear friend COVID.
Was that, well, I guess that
Remember,
was
my friend was getting married in Greece, and we like all had a trip planned to Italy. So that was
Rachel. Oh yeah.
yeah.
Well,
But,
she's pregnant. Is she having a baby?
she had a baby.
She,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we really missed 2 years of lives.
I know. I was gonna say, so there was, that all went up. She still got married, but not
No,
quite.
no, but not in the way. I mean, a lot of things didn't happen.
But
So
I
you've been
lived
to
in
Italy.
Italy. Yeah, I lived in Italy for part of my junior year in Florence, and traveled everywhere. It's probably one of the like most beautiful places I've ever been. I loved it so much, and I feel like I grew up a lot in that time.
I lived in
Learned a
Italy
lot about
too.
like travel, eating
Yeah.
my own, and the important things like wine.
I lived in
I don't know
Italy
if I
too.
learned about
When
wine or
you
I drank
were,
a lot of wine, but
I definitely did that. Well, as you know, what I was realizing, I know we like talked earlier about living in Italy a bit, but what I didn't realize is, did you know that when I lived in Italy, it was when I was 17? I forgot because I know it was your junior year abroad, and I was thinking it was mine. But when I graduated from high school, I didn't go straight to college. I didn't I actually didn't actually graduate from, I didn't matriculate. I wasn't going to school. Instead, I moved to Athens for half a year and then to Italy. And so I was like wandering around when I was 17, which when I was now thinking back to
that's
my Italy memories makes them even more
yes,
formative.
more adventurous.
More adventures. Because I was thinking I was 21, but no,
Oh,
maybe I was
lucky for
18.
you.
I was 18.
It was an 18, yeah.
I was 18. I moved when I was 17,
So
but I
you
was
were
18
like
by then.
totally like legal to be.
Yeah, I was legal. I was learning about like Barbaresco and
Yeah.
Florence.
I took a wine class when I was there, but my teacher was honestly drunk the whole time. The only thing I took
What
away
was that? Did you learn anything?
no, I like we were like I think we were the sixth class of the day, and I took it with one of my friends, and our teacher just came in hot.
Was he like, oh, I feel like that's if like
He
you
was
take a wine
like,
class and the person doesn't spit, right? They
oh, yeah.
isn't the
Oh,
whole
he
thing. It's
was
like you
like drinking
swallow, not.
bottles. It was way too precious for him to waste it. He was like trying everything all day long. He was a very cute little Italian man who, was very endearing. But I think the only thing I learned was that the like to know a true Chianti Classico, you have to make sure the rooster is on it.
Oh, the rooster. I know. I remember like that AOC DOC thing on the label, which is like if in Italian wine in white, it's like that light green AOC and the light pink DOC. If that has that like paper, it means that it's been verified in a certain
Yeah,
way.
it's
I
like
don't.
yeah. It's something
I
the
don't know about the.
rooster has
I
to
don't know about
do
the
with
rooster. I don't know what rooster.
You'll
Where's
see,
the rooster?
like Google like Chianti Classico and you'll see like they have a rooster like stamp.
Okay, I'm gonna
That's all
check
I
it
can tell
out.
you.
Okay, Chianti. I really like Chianti
But
Classico.
wine was cheaper than water when we were there, and we were like a bunch of broke college kids. So that was, we did a lot of trying.
That was why
We learned
we were
by
like, we
experience.
need to stay hydrated, but we have no money, so
Yeah,
we have to drink
so
wine.
we obviously had to drink wine. Yeah.
That makes sense. Perfect. Let's see. Oh, one thing I was thinking about as I was thinking about Mary's book and my Italian experience, which now I realize my very youthful Italian experience, is that, I think when we normally think about Shakespeare, we think about England, except that when I was in Italy, like one of the travels I made was I was living in Venice, took a train, somehow like either lost my wallet or got pickpocketed. So I had no money by the time I ended up where
Most
I
likely the latter.
well, I don't know what happened, but luckily I was with a friend. But I went to Verona and I actually went.
Cool.
Yeah, and I actually went to like this like love. There's like this like love like alley or wall that you walk past, and I saw what's thought to be Juliet's balcony. So,
oh my god, so cool.
I know. I just like remembered as I was reading this book and thinking about Italy and Shakespeare.
Well, for those of you who haven't read it, the Juliet and Romeo is plays a pretty big part of the story. So
yeah, she's an influential.
Good place to visit.
I know Verona. Well, anyway, not wait to interview Mary.
Let's head over to Alba and chat with Mary.
And head over to Alba. Okay, yeah, we'll head over to Alba in our minds.
In our minds. I'm just switching.
Cheers. Here's to our Boozy Book Club pick.
Yes, and we're gonna flip over to our interview with Mary now, and I hope you guys enjoy. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Boozy Book Club. We are so excited to be talking with Mary Bly about her book, Lizzie and Dante. And we all have our boozy teas. We're ready to, chat and get boozy. This book's amazing. It transports you literally right to Italy and has an incredible story. So we have some fun questions to ask Mary, and we'll kick off.
Perfect. Welcome, Mary. Like Maria said, we just loved this book. I mean, I kind of sped through it. So I guess before we sort of begin asking you some questions, can you just tell us in your own words, like what this story is about?
Sure. So Lizzie, I write historical romance, right? I don't write anything set in the present, but quite a few years ago, I was on Elba, where we go. And Elba is an island off the shore of Italy where families go every year. It's not a fancy island like Capri. It's an island where everybody just goes. And so my husband's family went there when he was a kid. And so we've taken our children there every summer when we were a kid. And we went to a restaurant that had lights spread up, strung outside, and a faded patio, and this amazing chef. And he only did a few tables every night. And he was a single dad with a daughter, and his wife had been in Russia and had gone back. And I looked at him and I was like, this is an amazing romance right here. He's everything. He's handsome. He's got the great kid. He's an amazing chef. So it stuck in the back of my mind. It really stuck in the back of my mind. But there isn't room to write a story like Lizzie and Dante in romance necessarily. I wanted to have a bigger canvas. I wanted to write about, not that I'm not writing about love, because I am, but I wanted to write about love in a bigger sense. In other words, when you're not sure how much time you have, how important it is to still lunge forward and love. Whereas romance exists in a place that's timeless. My characters never die. They live on long after they're supposed to, perhaps, in readers' minds.
Oh, wow. Okay. I love that. I didn't realize. I knew from your bio in the back of the book that you went to Elba with your family, which I thought it was very cool how you kind of had that note to the readers to sort of say, here's a little bit of who I am, and here's a picture of my family. So that there's a spoiler alert. There's a picture of Mary's family in the book. But that's incredible that you were kind of inspired by this chef that you met.
Yeah. And it's so funny. One of our questions for you is actually like if there's anyone that you pictured who each of the characters were. And it sounds like, yes, this was based on someone.
It was. And there's a scene in the book in which Lizzie, my heroine, goes for the first time to this restaurant and she has an entire octopus on the plate in front of her, just like, and that was what happened to me at lunch. And I had to come face to face with my realization that I like octopus a lot, as long as I don't see what it actually
But maybe
looks
not the whole body.
That's really
like. All
funny.
cut up into nice pieces. I'm there.
Yes, that is true. They do that. Yeah, the whole octopus is a whole different creature, if you will.
And then let me just say, that was before Octopus, My Teacher came out on Netflix, for those of you who've seen it.
Yeah, I know. It's like I feel like I like have octopus has become I love octopus, but every once in a while I feel like guilty for like, oh, should I eat this octopus?
Yeah.
So speaking of that, and Maria, I'm going off cycle from our question list, but like I did have a question for you about eating. So this is one of our fun questions, but Lizzie or Dante, or I guess Lizzie or Rohan, Lizzie or Dante, who do you, Mary Bly, eat more like?
Yeah. Are you more of a fine dining? Yeah.
Are you a Lizzie or a Dante when it comes to your
I'm a Lizzie.
You're Lizzie?
Because I said Dante is a chef, and so everyone has their own story in there. And one of his stories is moving from, Michelin star restaurant to the restaurant he has at the end, which is called Lizzie's, which is about comfort food. And so for me, coming to Italy every summer was an introduction to great food, because I grew up on a farm in Minnesota. My mother couldn't cook at all. So, it was an introduction to what great food is. And it's what we call comfort food. It's food that takes a while to prepare, that you spend a long time eating, that you love, and then you eat the same thing maybe the next week and maybe the week after that. And these are food that you love and you make over and over until you really make them beautifully. So I'm a Lizzie, and I think the whole train of the book is towards everyone being a Lizzie.
I love that. So, I mean, I guess kind of to that point, I mean, you said where kind of your inspiration for Dante was, but she's like an amazing kind of courageous character. What was your inspiration for her? Is she based on someone, or how did kind of Lizzie come to be?
Well, you'll see that the book was dedicated to my friend Rose, who died of cancer. So to some extent, it was written for Rose. Rose had this unbelievable ability to just grab life. And even when she was terminal, she traveled everywhere. She called me from a mountain in Peru, and she was like, "It's so fabulous here. You have to come before you die." And she knew she was dying, right? So that I've never forgot that. The way in which she understood time as something that you grab and you use, and you understand that you may have a limited amount. So her joy and her capacity for love is in this book for sure. Other than that, though, I have to say I put a lot of me into Lizzie. She's a Shakespeare professor. I'm a Shakespeare professor. She loves Dylan. I grew up with Dylan.
I love Dylan. I'm a big Dylan fan.
I love Romeo and Juliet. So my lectures sunk into the book. I hope not in an information dump kind of way, but it's thread there. So,
oh no,
a lot of my daughter's in there. She is, all the little things that open up the chapters that she writes, that Dante's daughter writes, were on my daughter's door. And so a lot of those things actually happen.
How your daughter, I guess, I mean, I don't know if this is too personal, but is your daughter around Etta's age, or is she? Was it from?
Not anymore, but she was.
Okay, she was. That okay, got it.
No, she actually just graduated from New York Culinary Institute.
Oh wow!
Yeah, she's going to be an Italian baker. So
perfect.
Yeah, a lot of
that's amazing. I love. There was one Dr. Seuss quote that I just like loved that was on her door, on Etta's door. Amazing. Sorry, go ahead, Jenny. I have more questions about that, but that's really beautiful, and thank you for sharing the background on Lizzie.
Yeah, and just to sort of go backwards in time. So, because I think we just jumped into this with you, Mary. So Lizzie and Dante is set on the island of Elba, and without giving away too much, Lizzie, the main character, is there with a few of her friends, and she kind of has this amazing life-changing discovery on the island, and she's she's ill. And I think we all know that pretty much from the beginning and from the back of the book. So I don't think that's giving anything away. So I guess that's kind of just going backwards to set that up for whoever is, listening and watching. But I wanted to talk about the music and poetry in your book. Maria and I were so curious yesterday when we were kind of thinking about all the stuff we wanted to know about the book, and also looking at some of the questions we've gotten from our Boozy Book Club readers. What does it sounds like it starts with a story, but really music and poetry were so interwoven. Like, was it kind of like you heard music as you were writing, or you heard poetry when you were writing, or did you kind of plot it out with the poetry and the music?
The book took 4.5 years to write. So I wrote it over and over. And music would come and go. Music was always there though, because as I saw Lizzie from the beginning, she was someone who within the plot had stopped singing, but had this amazing ability to sing. So I wanted to bring that back to her. I grew up with all the Episcopal hymns that are in there, and the Episcopal hymns come from my mother, and the Bob Dylan comes from my father. And my father was a poet, Robert Bly. He won the American Book Award for poetry. So the poet who's in there is based on Don Hall, who was the poet laureate of the United States and was my father's best friend. And so, and a great friend of mine until he passed away. So I took the opportunity of having a book that was set in the present, for which I had no contract. I haven't been out of contract. I've written 30 books all under contract. I had no contract. I could do whatever I wanted. I was totally free, right? I could write about Shakespeare. I could bring in music that I loved. I could write about a poet. I could write about an 11-year-old girl, trying to catch my daughter on the page. I could write about Dante, who's partly, inspired by that chef, but has a lot of my husband, because I'm an American who married an Italian, who is a Dante scholar, actually. So,
I like that.
Yes. I
took
love all the little.
came to me.
That's amazing. It's
That's so
like
great.
your book is like, it reminds me, now that you're saying all of this, do you know the scene in The Usual Suspects when it turns out everything is connected, like all the
Yes, it's all one big like web. Yeah.
it's all one big story based on all this is life. That's amazing.
cool.
It's actually very, we talk to writers all the time about how they develop, but it's all this kind of concrete, like my husband's a Dante scholar. Like it's kind of amazing to hear how it came together for you.
Yeah, I have the joy of not having, because I write historical romance and everyone kind of looks down on romance. When I was writing this novel, I knew that it might be the only contemporary novel I write. And I didn't have to worry about whether people would like it or not. I didn't have to worry about anything. And that's amazingly freeing. If you were talking to me about my 30th historical novel, I've learned so much, and I've learned what people want, and I can talk to you endlessly about what the market wants right now. That's not the case with Lizzie Dante. I could just do whatever I wanted.
Well,
it was great.
It's wonderful. I loved reading it. I think we both flew through it. So, wait, I have one question before we leave music. Was Po' Boy, is there a story in your life with that, since we're talking about kind of the
Sure. Yeah.
So I had never heard that song. I've heard a lot, and I've never heard that song, which of course I played.
It's not a well-known song at all.
Yeah.
But two things. One is that, Bob Dylan came from Minnesota and I was from Minnesota, and my dad and Bob Dylan went to Russia before the wall fell together. In Russia, they love music and poetry, so they invited them. And Dad had this amazing time, because of course the police escorted them everywhere, and it was crazy. But
wow.
I grew up knowing these Bob Dylan songs really well. And then I became a Shakespeare professor. And then the most popular class I teach is called Shakespeare and Pop Culture. And so I teach a lot of music in there. I'm sure that you could think of a lot of Romeo and Juliet songs that I teach. But I also teach Bob Dylan. So I teach Po' Boy, which is an incredibly, incredibly intricate song that students love once they get to know it. So it just,
amazing.
Yeah, it's talking about love, and he talked about it in an amazing way. So
no, it's a beautiful song.
Yeah, that's great. No, I love. major Bob Dylan fan, but I wasn't familiar with that song. And
Yeah.
it was just I loved the music that was interwoven, the music from the characters, and then the music that the characters listened to. And again, for those, again, another not so spoiling spoiler, there is a playlist in the back of the
Yes.
book, which is just like so much fun.
Yes.
You can kind of, because the theme, and when I guess that speaks to kind of the fun you were talking about having, like Mary, that, just, you could do what you wanted. So why not put a playlist in the back of the book?
Could
I
do
love it.
whatever I wanted. I mean, I love Leonard Cohen. I think Leonard Cohen and Bob Dylan are both poets,
I agree.
so it's all about poetry. But so many of those, the Episcopal hymns that you heard a little bit about are insane poetry, talking about, these are old hymns, right? Talking about life and death and how we live. So
Yeah.
a joyful experience writing it. I'm really grateful I had that freedom.
Yeah.
Well, we found your playlist on Spotify too, so we'll share it for all of our lucky listeners.
That's great.
They can listen in as well. Cool. Okay, so let's see. I feel like we've been jumping all around. Was there a favorite, kind of going back to the food? Was there a favorite recipe or a dish, or have you actually made any of the dishes? Some of them were so like the licorice whitefish one. I haven't forgotten. I was like, what? I feel like now I want to try it.
No, I found that exact dish in the menu section of a Roman restaurant that has like 2 Michelin stars. So they're actually making that.
Oh, cool. I love that.
Maria talked to me about that dish too.
I
She
haven't
was like the
forgotten about
licorice
it.
dish.
Well, then you talked a lot about licorice, so
Licorice sauce on top of fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, there is a bigger story there, which is that he was really just making food out of what he found in the market that day.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what my mother-in-law, for years, I came here and she would go to the market, every day, the little street markets, and she would buy exactly what was the freshest. So zucchini, for example, in my refrigerator can last for a week before I get around to cooking. In her case, if the zucchini is not cooked within 48 hours, it's bad, right? It's gone.
Yeah.
It's done. So you just buy a small amount for that day. And so he's doing that. And a lot of the food that's in there that's on the comfort side is food that I learned how to cook here. So I will say that if you're interested in recipes, I also wrote a memoir called Paris in Love, which has Anna when she is younger and very obstreperous at age younger. And I actually put my mother-in-law's risotto recipe in there, and there's a couple other recipes. So if you're interested in recipes, that is Paris in Love.
Oh, we love recipe. We're in the
Yes, always.
we're in the beverage food business, so we're always.
Yeah.
So I have one. I have one more question for you, which is, and then I don't know if Maria has a final one before we kind of wrap up, but the idea of family develops so much, throughout the book, right? There's like from the beginning to the end, that's just, it takes on an entirely new meaning. So I just wondered if maybe you could share a little bit, what was that meant to be a theme, or like, how do you think about family, or like, what does it mean to you to develop that idea?
I wanted it to be a sense that you have a found family. You can have one. Maybe you're lucky enough to have a fabulous family. I think I am. But I also, I think that you don't have to have a family. You can find a family, you can create a family. And that's one thing that Lizzie did. There's the theme throughout there of the bird, right? She's flying, the bird that circles looking for home. It comes up in the Don Hall poem, it comes up in the various songs. And then the question that a songbird only settles on a branch, doesn't sing in flight. You only settle on a branch to sing when you're mating. And she's circling, she's looking for home. And that's one reason why she is a foster child, because I want to remove the child aspect. She does have, her foster mother taught her the hymns. It's not as if she was abused or something terrible happened to her, not at all. She had good foster experiences, but that doesn't mean she created a family. And the
idea of home and family is this empowering, freeing, like aspect. I mean, and also all of the different characters. I know we've spoken mainly about Lizzie and Dante and a little bit about Etta, but there are a lot of characters kind of seeking family in different ways in your book. It's just so much fun to read about the other characters as well.
Yeah, that was great for me as well, because a historical romance novel focused very much on the two characters at the heart of the book, whereas a novel like this, Rohan and Ruby, all have their own stories, you know, and they have their own arcs, as it were. And but as you were saying, that all those arcs are connected. They're all tied together with the themes of family, of love, of the flying bird, of Romeo and Juliet, because the end where, you know, they're talking about this production of Romeo and Juliet all the way through, and the men see it from one way, the women see it from another. And it has just been my experience teaching Romeo and Juliet for so many years that no one notices that Juliet asks Romeo to marry her, right? Nobody sees that. They all study in high school. No one sees that. No one sees the moment when she sends a ring over to him. I mean, this is crazy.
No, I love that part. Obviously I hadn't noticed. I was like, oh my God, I have a whole new perspective.
So all those things, all those questions of, are we going to get married? It's not just Lizzie and Dante, you know, it's the other characters, and it's
exactly.
The end, right? Who's going to get married? Who's going to create who's going to bond with someone? Doesn't, you know, man, woman, whatever. It's just about bonding and breaking some. When Juliet broke she broke all the rules when she did that, right? And our rules have changed a little bit, the rules that you need to break, but it is in a sense about gay marriage and about being free and being as fearless as Juliet, and then as fearless as Lizzie, because you can marry whoever you want, you can do whatever you want, but what are we afraid of? We're afraid of dying, right? We're terrified of dying. So when Lizzie says, I'm not going to let this fear control me anymore, I'm going to go back and just have the chemo. And she does, you know, spoiler alert for those of you reading it, she doesn't die the minute the book is over. She goes back, she's on Elba again, but you have to control the fear in order to be able to love.
Yeah. And I think, and that's, I mean, amazingly brought out in your book, that everyone's kind of dealing with their demon, is not demon, but who they're contending with is themselves in this time of freedom, but they're still handcuffed a little bit, or and trying to get.
Exactly. Good.
So I got it. Perfect. Well, I mean, we like loved the book. I don't know. It just was wonderful. Maria, do you have any other questions for Mary? I know that we have one or two other fun things to do. We're going to make an Instagram, make a reel with you, but one more time. I picked out my English breakfast lemon and lime because I realized it literally exactly matches the colors.
Oh, nice.
That's why
we have a nice little color match going on here.
I have the UK cover with me.
Okay, I like that. Is that a lemon on the cover?
The lemon. They did a lemon.
Oh,
Really pretty. Yeah.
Oh.
It would have matched my English.
I love them both. Yes, they all look good with our theme. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Mary, thank you so much. It was so much fun to hear how you wrote the book and how you conceived of it. We really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I love talking to you. Thank you. It was so much fun to have such thoughtful, intelligent questions and your obvious pleasure in the book. So thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us for our Boozy Book Club today. Please follow along on our Instagram channel to stay tuned for our upcoming picks.
Yeah, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you guys soon for a chat in a couple of weeks. Cheers.
Cheers.